Carter from Lang Originals. If you're watching this video, you have purchased or you're considering purchasing a Hoist-A-Top for the Ford Bronco. This is a true one-man lifting system that picks up the top and stores it in your garage all in one. Okay, let's go over the parts for the lifting frame. We're gonna have lifting brackets with 2 lock pins. There's gonna be 3 frame arms and 1 main frame arm. Your L-shaped hook, 6 foam pieces and 2 white foam pieces and 2 end caps. And for this assembly, all we're gonna need is a small crescent wrench. All right, let's put this frame together. Getting this foam piece on, as far as order of operations, putting this on very first. So if you hold this so the Y is facing towards the ground, and you'll notice that the sides are different. So this larger notch right here is gonna go on this side as it goes down on the Y. So just putting that on first, it goes towards the front. And then before you put these arms in, you wanna make sure that you put your foam pieces on. So we've got these nice little spring pins in here, so this just snaps right together. The 2 smaller arms will go on the front. And then here on the back, I should mention that I have marked with my tape measure and a little Sharpie here at 4 1/4. And that's how far this bar is. I'm gonna put this bar in. And I'm gonna stop that right there at the 4 1/4. We can adjust that if that's off a little bit, and that's okay. And then I have my eye bolt here, and this eye bolt is actually gonna offer some support and hold this bar in place. So I'm gonna tighten that down. And I really like to get my eye bolts in line with the frame. And that way when it hangs with the cable, it hangs nice and straight. Also really important at this point, I'm gonna tighten down these safety nuts right here. So basically the last thing to do is to get this foam in place. And we wanna be consistent again with our notch. So our larger notch is gonna be on the same side as the notch over here. So put this on like this, and there's our notch. And take a zip tie, and it's just as easy as wrapping around the notching right here. And we're not gonna worry too much about the placement on here. We can adjust that when we get it on top and get the panels on there, and we can adjust that and fine tune it. We've assembled our frame, and we've put it underneath of our power unit and got our cables down here. And I'm gonna give you kind of a couple of tips that will make this process go a whole lot smoother so that this frame stays nice and level when you're raising the top. So the first thing is you wanna get your wire nuts and put all 3 of these wire nuts on at once. And then make sure your cables pass through. And then we're gonna tighten 1 of these down, not all 3, but just 1 until we get everything all set. My favorite tool for this is a 5/16 nut driver. If you don't, then a little socket will work, but this nut driver really works great for these small little nuts. So I'm gonna tighten this up, and then I'm gonna tighten up the front side, and I'm gonna check it for level. And one other thing I'd like to mention as a safety note, there is a correct way to put this wire nut on. This bent portion here over on this side is called the saddle, and this saddle end is supposed to be on what they call the dead end, or the loose end of the cable. And when you put you need to put the saddle side on this side and on all 3 of your cable clamps. So I've got both sides attached to what I think is level, and I'm gonna just give it a quick test up and down and make sure that everything looks nice and level as it raises. Then I'm gonna take my wire nut and tighten all 3 wire nuts down with the saddle in the correct position. And I'm gonna move this safety stop down just right on top of the last wire nut. So before we take off the top, we need to remove all of the standard hardware that comes with the Bronco. So I removed these 2 sections, these 2 panels that go above the driver and the passenger side, and I just put those aside. And then the center section, I undid the hardware on that, or the catches, and then I just moved this slightly forward on the roll bar so that I could get to these bolts that hold down the front of the back portion of the top. I also removed the hardware that goes around the bottom edge, and I removed the wiring harness and the tube for the liquid for the rear windshield wiper. I'm gonna push this center panel back in place, and then I'm gonna turn all 3 of the turnstiles but I'm gonna leave both of the clamps unclamped. Now we're ready to put our frame on here and we're ready to lift. We got the frame up on top of the Bronco and we're ready to attach the lifting brackets here. Now, one thing you'll notice that they are directional, so if this is backwards, then it won't go on this side. So there's one dedicated to each side. So it's just gonna slide on. This is rubber coated. So as it slides in here, it goes right into here, into this notch. And then you line up your hole on the inside here. Put the clip pin on, and that's ready to go. Now is the time where if we need to make some minor adjustments to that 4 1/4 measurement that we put in here, we can. We kind of tried this out first, so we know that this measurement's correct. I'm gonna put the nylock nut on here. I need to have my crescent wrench with me. Again, I'm just gonna tighten this down enough so that I see, good catch, so that I see about a thread showing up here. And then I'm ready to just turn this under right here. Lifting brackets installed, front L hook installed. Now our die cut pieces here, we have the large notch on this side. And the way these set up is you can see the groove right here in the top. This piece goes right up to the edge of that in place. And then our smaller white piece pushes all the way up to right to the Y as far as you can go on the Y. And we're ready to put those top panels right in here. Gotta make sure you got the hardware off, our harnesses are off, and all of our latches are unlatched, and we're ready to lift. Ready to lower the top back on the Bronco. Things I want to check out. I want to make sure that these front panels are secure on top. And most importantly, I want to make sure that these latches for the center section are in the open position. So when I'm going to lower the top, one of the things I'm going to focus on is these alignment pins right here. I want to make sure that those are going to go into these 2 holes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lower this down until almost right above those holes. And then I'm gonna make sure that these line up in those 2 holes and then lower the top. So along with the alignment pins in the back, along the back of the top, I also wanna make sure that this alignment pin, it didn't go in with the other ones, but that's okay. I can just kind of pull this back and drop that in, and then that's ready to latch. Putting your top back on after the initial installation, we've included some of these T-top finger tight screws that you can use to replace this bracket up here. And it might remind you of your days playing Operation, the board game Operation, but you have to kind of get your fingers up there and put it in. It's not too bad, but this saves a lot of time because you don't have to move this top piece forward in order to take that hardware off every time. You can just do this while the top is still attached. Just a little tip and trick to get your bungee cord off. If you just pull it off like this and let go of it, it'll fling. But we've found that if you unhook it this way and then just walk it over to the side and lay it right here, that's the best way to do it.